Oh, there's nothing wrong with your computers, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Hebrew, and that is being spoken by our very talented guest in the neighborhood today. He has been making music for more than 40 years in Hebrew and in English, and also pop and folk and rock music as well. He is going to be appearing on Friday, Shabbos Eve, September 6th at the Rubin Museum in Manhattan. He's got bunches of albums out, including titles like Stolen Kiss, Stone Doors, Third Language, The Golden Ring, and we'll talk about this one, East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem. Won't you welcome to the neighborhood, David Broza. Shalom, David.
Wow, what are you on this morning?
Oh, I'm on coffee and a little bit of Escalade, basically. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Good.
Oh, good. I'm going to have to ask you to speak up just a little bit to make sure that, because I know you're a soft-spoken, sexy kind of guy, but we want everybody to hear you. And then we'll... There you go, holla, because you're Jewish. Come on, Jews are loud and annoying. You have to be that way. There you go. Now, you were born in Haifa. So how did you, but you weren't raised necessarily all in Israel. You went to England and Spain. What was the journey for you there?
Oh, it's still going on. So yeah, I was born in Haifa. I was raised in Tel Aviv and in Madrid, Spain. There was a moment where I went to boarding school in England for about a year and a half. And then back to Israel, did my regular, had the mandatory military service. After that, I started my music career. And in 1984, I moved to the States and started touring this country and kept, one foot in the States and one foot in Israel, always going back and forth, maintaining my relationship with my audience. And having grown up in Madrid, of course, I also sing in Spanish. So I have a career of three audiences, the Hebrew, the English speaking, and the Spanish.
Yeah. And you keep, as you said, one foot in Israel, one foot here. And I think you dip a toe in New Jersey, which is rather tragic. But
yes, it was a fantastic time, as tragic as it may sound on paper. And all the fantasies of Jersey being like the other side of heaven, but it isn't. It was fantastic, and it was my base for about 17 years while I learned this country, and I wrote music, and I recorded 6 albums in the U.S., and all based on American poetry. So I really needed a base in the New York area, and while I traveled everywhere, there was the Deep South, or there was the Bible Belt, or there was Texas or West, North, everywhere. It was fantastic.
Now, you mentioned the Bible Belt because you do songs in Hebrew, and there's a whole realm of like Hasidic pop where all the lyrics have to be just out of the Bible stuff. But you don't do that. You write poetry in Hebrew, but it can be secular stuff. The topics are not biblical.
I am totally secular. I have a lot of respect for the Bible and for the religious, pious Jew and the way of life of a religious person, no matter whether he's a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim. But I'm a totally secular. I play music. This is basically my religion.
Yes.
And my way of life rather than religion. I work
I'm sorry? Oh, no.
Poets in Spain, Spanish poets in America. I've worked with numerous poets, as well as just working off poetry that I find in books. And so that was my way of getting introduced to America, because you pick a book of a poet, you don't know where he's from. Finally, when you want to connect with his whereabouts, where he wrote from, where his inspiration is, and you end up in Nogales in Arizona, or you end up in Seattle, or you end up in the Northeast, or in the Midwest, in Evansville, Indiana. And so this was a great way for me to connect with the culture of this country through its language, and then get closer to the writers, and therefore meet also the habitat where they live and their whereabouts and the culture that they live in. And of course, total fascination and admiration for what goes on, what has come out of American culture worldwide. So it's been my inspiration, I guess, for my entire life.
Well, you mentioned Nogales. Is that where you twice ran into, and I guess had a very quick but serious friendship with Townes Van Zandt.
No, Van Zandt I actually met in Houston, Texas.
Oh.
He's from Fort Worth, but I met him in Houston, Texas, where I was introduced to him through a mutual friend. In Nogales, I worked with an incredible, he's the laureate poet of Arizona, Alberto Rios, who's half Mexican, half Anglo, so and he's raised in Arizona and he teaches there. But with Townes Van Zandt, which was the most fantastic experience, was David Amram, who was a very prominent American musician. He's in his late 80s already.
Yeah.
But he gave birth to the Beat generation. He's the first beatnik with Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and all those. And he discovered me playing in some festival and thought that I should meet Townes Van Zandt. And he set up that meeting in a mutual concert that we gave in Houston, Texas, at the Main Street Theater. And that's where our little romance started, which was very short because about 2-3 years into it, he died.
Yeah.
And so in his death, I was given notice that he had willed to me verbally his unpublished poetry. And so that took some contact, some time in retrieving and getting it, but it ended up with me dedicating an album to Townes Van Zandt, the unpublished poetry. It's called Night Talk. Beautiful album.
Well, what do you remember about the conversation? Because obviously they made a lasting impression on both of you if he was going to give you his poetry to save. So what do you remember about him?
Well, our first and only real meaningful meeting was a mutual concert where also David Amram played and Live Below, another friend who's a singer-songwriter from Texas, were with us. But basically it was tuning performers. Like he'd play a song and I'd play a song, he'd play a song and each of us gave a little bit of background because he knew nothing about me. Of course, I knew about him. I knew who he was and what great talent he was, but I never met him. So we were impressing each other. And I started off with a poem by I did a Hebrew blues, that got him.
A Hebrews, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Hebrews, and he shot out of his seat because nobody prepared him to what kind of a performer I am and what languages I sing in. So that threw him out. And then I continued with Federico Garcia Lorca's Spanish poem, and that totally got him emotional. And then when I ended up with Elizabeth Bishop poem, very well-known American poet, then he wrote down his number in the middle of the show and gave it to me. He says, "Call me, I got some poetry as well." So it started this romance, and we met a couple more times, but we didn't quite get to sit together and share or exchange improvised melodies and stuff. But we were in each other's minds. Literally a week or so before he died, we had this conversation with a mutual friend, Live Below, and he told me, "Listen, if anything ever happens, I don't know, I just want to make sure that my poetry gets to Broza." And that's what happened.
Now, speaking of people, well-known people that you've appeared with, I don't know if you even did anything more than shake hands with these people, but I am curious, you at least shared the stage with both Bob Dylan and Van Morrison. Do you have any memory, any stories, anything about those times?
Well, yeah, of course, with Bob Dylan, we did a double bill in a stadium in the south of Israel. As a matter of fact, I got the call while I was in Evansville, Indiana, working with some poets, and the promoter called me and said, "Look, I need you in Israel next week because we got a show, we got to sell more tickets." So I went down there, I flew out, and we shared the stage, and the deal was with the promoters that nobody should get anywhere closer than 100 yards to Bob Dylan. So I guess everybody respected it, and I could, I had to do my thing. I had to play an hour plus. And when I got off stage, when I was preparing the stage for him to get on, suddenly I feel somebody next to me, and I look, and it's Bob Dylan. So he says to me, "Man, you play this guitar like a machine gun." And that stayed like in my mind. Besides, the conversation continued for a bit, but that was like a phrase that I needed to like really write down and
That should be on your website. You need to put that on like the homepage of davidbroza.net. I mean, that should be plays guitar like a machine gun, Bob Dylan. Come on, that's pretty neat.
So yeah, and never met again. But I had shows also with Sting, with Paul Simon, and of course with Van Morrison was in Madrid. These are great experiences, and just to share the same audience and play in the same situations and have the same audience appreciate what I do when I'm actually the biggest fan of these artists gave some kind of credentials to my art, I guess.
Well, but the thing is, did you have any personal interactions with Sting or Paul Simon or Van Morrison?
Well, it's funny because Paul Simon, after our show, called his then he became his manager, but he was his PR person at Caress, and made sure that they keep in touch with me and work with me. And it was the same when I worked with Sting, that he got me in touch with FBI, with his booking agency, and they actually signed me on to my American tours. It was all great, really great experiences. We never got to sit down again and share bread or anything, but those moments were cherished, and
sure.
I keep them as part of my little moments of happiness and bliss.
Absolutely. Now, you come on some level from a musical family. Your mom was an early Israeli folk singer, yeah?
Yeah, she was Israel's first folk singer, with guitar. Her name was Sharona Aaron, and she had records selling all over the world. Of course, it was a new country. She was recording in 1948 until 1953, and made several albums, and they were huge successes, actually, overseas, besides Israel. Great Britain and South Africa, and all the Anglo-Saxon countries, United States. There was most, I guess, all the folk fans, from Pete Seeger to Odetta. Everybody wanted to share stage with her, to meet with her, and to learn a little bit about this new upcoming country, which was basically a concept at that time. Although it had a flag and had a national anthem, but it was so young. It was like, we're talking about 3 years, 4 years into the country's existence. So it was an enigma, and everybody wanted to see what it was for real. So a meeting with my mother would be always somewhat of a novelty. So when these artists traveled to Israel, it was these platters, actors like Sidney Poitier or Harry Belafonte, they would actually come to the house. And so I remember as a child being 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that these are the personalities that would once in a while come to the house and have amazing nights of music. It was very inspiring.
Well, do you remember stories that your mother would have told you about being there for the birth of it? Because she was obviously there before even 1948. Did she any amazing tales or scary ones or things that you especially remember of living in Israel back then?
She was born in what was then Palestine in 1927, but in Tel Aviv.
Right.
Her mother was born in Rehovot, outside of Tel Aviv. So, but whenever she spoke of those times, it all seemed like it was one cloud of euphoric cloud. I mean, everybody was in the euphoria. It wasn't. Only many, many, many years later did it sink in that upon the birth of Israel, there were other stories that, for example, she had Palestinian friends until 1948 that then suddenly disappeared. She never understood where they went. They were driven out, or they were forced out in some ways, or just frightened and left. They left the area and went to either to live in Ramallah or in London or in other countries. And only many, many years later was she able to piece everything together and to catch up with these friends. But that moment of the birth of Israel for everybody was euphoric. It was unreal. It was until today, when you think of it, these things don't happen. It happens in Israel. It's very rare.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But let's get into it, because you are a real peacenik, and I use that word not in any kind of a negative way. You're very much, you have an album called East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem. You're very much into trying to get the two sides together. But first of all, they've been trying for 70-something years now. What the hell can possibly work?
Oh, everything will work. It's a matter of perseverance. It's a matter of trust. It's a matter of maintaining that goal as your ultimate goal, which I think everybody does. And it's mostly patience. you can't make everything work in the course of one generation or two or three. This could take, 7 years is obviously not enough. We'll have to wait, we'll wait it out. But I can tell you that miraculous things do happen in the grassroots level, which is where I thrive in working with small groups of Israelis and Palestinians, with youth, bringing musicians together.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that has been going on for decades. Orchestras get together, they have basketball, the youth. Of course, that always happens. That happens in neighborhoods where gang fighting, like in West Side Story, and there are little pockets of, a miraculous thing happened. Everybody sat down for a meal and we all got along. That is not the same as having a country where terrorism vanishes and everybody really does get along economically and socially. It's just, those are little pockets of light in a tunnel.
No, these are not pockets, these are seeds. You're planting seeds in every one of these experiences, and you cannot assume that by having dinner one time or hang out one time is going to work. If you had a good time, make sure you meet again in 10 days. Just keep it going. You got to have perseverance, tenacity, faith, and most of all, you've got to really want this to happen. And there's no other way of looking at it. You cannot live by the sword generation upon generation upon generation. You're going to have to, at some point, succumb to the idea that there's got to be a compromise and something will work out.
What is the compromise? Well, do you see Israel as a purely Jewish state, a homeland?
Well, if we go the way we're going, which is basically bringing in, taking control over the Palestinian Authority with all its 2.5 million inhabitants, then you're going to end up having 50% of Israel. If you're talking about Jewish, it's not just about that point of view. Then you're becoming almost a minority in your own country. So you've got to establish very, very clear borders and make sure that that both sides understand each other and come to terms. And it's going to happen. It's not something that's going to be left without attending to it. Even though in these days it seems like the zealots are getting their way. And I can tell you one thing, that you cannot, that being extreme is not going to bring you into the majority. Being extreme maintains the extreme, whether you're left or right, it doesn't matter. You've always got to find the liberal way in the middle where everybody is brought in the majority, and then they make the rule. The public has to actually act upon it, and when the public isn't acting upon it, then then politics take you wherever they want to take you. So we got to work. I believe in the grassroots, educating and planting the seeds, and not doing something just one time, but continuing. I did this for 40 years. I come from a household where we all believe that my grandfather instilled it in me, and he founded a village called the Shalom, Wahat al-Salam, Oasis of Peace, which is an amazing and probably the only village of its kind in the world where Israel and two enemies, basically, sworn enemies like the Israelis and the Palestinians, live together, and they write the protocol on conflict resolution.
But that's the thing. Can you see Israel being not a two-state solution, but a shared state solution? Which one do you go for?
What's the third state?
No, a shared state.
Oh, shared. No, I don't. Right now we're having I think a fantastic surge of how do you say that the Arab population of Israel, which comprises of 20% of the population, is slowly being integrated and understanding that the opportunities that are laid to them by taking part and being part of the democratic society and not staying out of it. And so their effect is becoming more and more noticeable, and they're benefiting from it, and so is the entire society. All of us are, because it brings, as soon as there's prosperity and equality starts to manifest itself, then the society calms down, and you start building trust, real trust, not just person to person, community to community. And no, this has taken 7 years, so give it another 7 years, and we'll be in an amazing place.
Halabai. I mean, but then again, it lurches forward and then it goes back. It goes forward. I mean, we should have been in this place back in the 1970s when, Sadat and Begin were making a deal with Egypt, and that's held.
Well, you could say the same about the Irish. They could have resolved their problems 300 years ago. Didn't it? And that's between Protestants and Catholics. So forget it. And these issues have to be dealt with in the right way at the right time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pride on the way, and a lot of hard feelings, and a lot of people are getting hurt, and we lose trust, and then all over again. If you just read the Bible as a form of a story, then you understand that there's ups and downs, and there will be moments where you have two generations, 40 years, that they'll be quiet, and they'll be peaceful. Who knows if it's not going to erupt again at some point.
Well, let me ask you, speaking of hardships and people getting hurt, going to go a whole different direction here. You spent almost a year recuperating from a terrible car accident. Did you feel you'd never play music again, or was that what got you through it? Because you hoped and you expected, I'm going to play music again no matter what. How did you get through being almost paralyzed?
I actually don't know. My sheer faith and I guess my survival mode, which I think every person has within himself. I was told I would not play again. I was paralyzed in one arm, and the rest of my upper body was in shambles. And that took a year. There was a doctor actually predicted quietly, whispered into my ear, listen, if you're patient, there might be a possibility that your nerves will rebuild themselves. And if I count it right with a millimeter a day, that the nerve rebuilds itself, then if we count 355 days based on your injury, then you might be able to show signs to be able to play in 355 days. That's basically a year. And the miracle happened on the 355th day. It actually connected. The nerves connected, and it was unreal. And of course, within weeks, I was on stage and performing again. While I was at it and uncertain, I did have, although I had a lung that collapsed, so I couldn't sing immediately, but in a few months, I was able to sing. So I kind of started thinking to myself, okay, I can walk, I can sing. If I can't play, then I'll find other ways. So I kept on looking at the half-filled glass, and the half-filled cup. So I guess life is, for me, is through positive motivation. I don't let myself fall into the dark pits of despair and unhappiness. I try to.
Yeah, an optimistic Jew. The first one I've ever met. It's astonishing to hear. But it's worked for you. By the way, I want to remind people that we are talking with the delightful and talented David Broza, whom you can all see him on Friday, September 6th at the Rubin Museum of Art in Manhattan. And of course, you're going to want to go get his albums, which you can find out about at his website, David Broza, B-R-O, what, yeah. .net.
Many other shows planned up. I have in Rubin Theater up in Mamaroneck on September 28th.
Oh, the Emmeline Theater or where?
Huh?
The Emmeline Theater in Mamaroneck?
Yeah, and what's the beauty of this show, I just recommend to anybody who hasn't seen me or anybody who has seen me, is that I'm now playing with a New York-based Cuban trio, which I call Trio Havana, and basically we play all my music, a lot of it in Hebrew, some Spanish. It's a great opportunity for me to share the stage with Spanish speakers, and of course some of my American stuff, but all of it is Cuban arrangements. It's like, it really is what they play as traditional Cuban Afro-Cubano. It's just a beautiful, great experience for me. And
it's like borscht and beans.
Huh?
And it's like mixing borscht and beans. It sounds wonderful. Just saying. One of the things that's kind of interesting is you started basically 40 years ago this year, and that was an era of, in terms of American music, disco and punk. Did you feel a little bit out of place in what was going on commercially in American music, doing the folk stuff that you do?
Well, I was in Israel, first of all.
Yeah.
I didn't know one day make it to America, but I was in Israel. 1977 is actually when I started. And I was doing folk rock, and to me that was what my passion was. And I always identified with the music. If I listened to Bob Dylan, Jackson Brown, Joni Mitchell, and there's radio artists of the same style.
Well, wait, I have to ask. Have you ever played with, or do you know, Speak Up Pick?
Speak Up Pick. I didn't play with it, but we are obviously colleagues, and our careers basically parallel each other. He's a huge pop songwriter, huge.
And what about the band Poogie or Kaderek? I think. Yeah.
Well, they don't exist anymore, but once in a while they do get together and do a comeback. And I know all of them, and some of them I've played with and sung with. I actually had a band that I was with and Kitty Go, who was the vocalist of Poogie, which is called Kaveret, we were the band. It was like Rabbi, Demi Esther, and myself. So it was beautiful. It was called The 16 Sheep. One of those beautiful children's albums ever, and we toured together, of course.
The 16 Sheep?
1978.
Yeah. Wow. Let me ask you also, in terms of other people's music, or maybe it's your own. We all have egos. Oh, shalom again, my friends. This is Rabbi Sal Solomon with a bit more of our wonderful conversation with the talented and delightful David Broza, who, as he said, not only, if you can't get to see him on September 6th at the Rubin Museum of Art, remember he'll be at the Emmeline Theater in Mamaroneck, New York, coming up in a couple of weeks, is it?
Yeah, September 28th.
September 28th. I missed that part. And where else locally?
More concerts, there's City Winery, it's a great place in Philadelphia. It's just opening now, so it's a fantastic venue, and I'll be there November 17th, I believe, and later on in December, there's a whole bunch of shows.
Oh, wonderful. Now, let me also
you can see all the shows on davidbroza.net on the website.
Absolutely, davidbroza.net. Let me ask, you have, since you started in the late 1970s and you've been on American labels, you even had an album, I think, on Columbia Records at one point. Do you miss the era of the big labels and the promotion and stuff, or are you happier in this much more, I don't want to say dissipated, but dislocated era of you get an album together however you can and release it however you can and do it that way?
Well, I can say that there's a lot of merit to working with an organization that provides you in-house everything. There's promotion, in-house artists and repertoire, people who work along with you to really maximize the potential of a product. And now I've been working as a label myself since 1993 for a long time, way before the digital age.
Right.
But today you're basically exploring every possible way, and every day you learn of new venues, new ways to market things. The one thing about today, what's difficult for an artist, it's very, very costly. I mean, you can work, the guerrilla way, which is most of us work that way, meaning that we just invent our own marketing directions. But when you have a team with you, it's much more effective. And when you can afford, as today, every post that you put on Instagram, on Facebook, you have to actually back it up with funds, which means that it can end up costing thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote a product. But I can't walk around saying it was better then. All I can say is now it's more challenging, and it keeps you on the edge. You got to keep looking at what goes, what comes your way, and find the right one, and then you can't sleep. You just got to keep all the time on edge.
Well, I'm someone, trust me, if you know my personality, you know I'm on edge all the time. But as someone who's been making music for 40-something years and writing your own songs and music, do you ever dry up or have the fear of drying up, or at some point a new melody comes to you? Or you'll read a poem and you'll start playing with it with a guitar or something, and there's never that moment of all the songs in the world have been written. There's nothing new I can add. All the chord progressions have been done. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, you do get into that lull, that moment where you feel completely drained and nothing to offer. But as I know it, give yourself another moment and suddenly everything will change. So, everything is so dynamic that until your last breath, you're going to be searching. And artists, especially, that we live in an age, even more so than age today, where you can work a whole year on an album and then release it digitally, and within minutes, it's criticized and sometimes flushed down. We live under a lot of stress because of the critical aspect of our work. So for me, I'm lucky that I have a lot of, I guess, a discipline that allows for me to sit down and try to write new music. But I do have to have an idea of which direction I want to go to in order for me to be able to produce. So I had in 2010, I decided to write my own lyrics entirely, not collaborate with other poets or work on poetry. So I sat and I thought it's not going to happen, and then finally, suddenly I had this inspirational 2 weeks in which I wrote fantastic songs and created a new album. And then the East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem project, which started with one song, but I really didn't have a direction. But since I was working in East Jerusalem for so many years, the idea of being able to produce an album there that would be actually in English and would be able to communicate with the world was fascinating to me. So it took more than several months for me to put it all together and write the music and bring White Sean into writing with me the title song of the album, East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, and then film it, and then make a film out of it. So now, which is on Netflix. So, under the same name, so I'm thinking, okay, everything I do now will also maybe have a film along with it, a documentary, a story. So you become very active in many ways, and of course you write the music because you're constantly inspired and challenged. Some of the music can be mediocre, so you don't publish it. But while you're working and writing, say you write 10 songs a week, maybe 3 of them are something that you keep and put on your next album.
Well, actually, that brings up a question for writers and artists of like, can you tell immediately when something is mediocre? Do you have to sit on it a week or a month or something, and then you come back to it and you're like, ugh? Or because when you're writing it, if you knew it was mediocre while you're writing it, you wouldn't finish writing it.
Well, you have to see it for yourself. You feel it when you finished writing it. But for years I was very critical of my own writing, and I would discard or just put in the drawer a lot of songs that I thought were mediocre. And later on in years, I discovered that they had the best hooks and the most pop-oriented or commercial-oriented, and I should have used them, so I keep on bringing them out. You never know. It's good to work with a team or with a producer or with somebody that can help you feedback, and get you feel a little bit more either positive or completely negative about what you work. So you know how to concentrate on the essential and not on the esoteric.
Well, we have been talking essentially with David Broza. I've got to ask, I didn't get to this beforehand. Still getting a little bit on the dark side, the negative side there. You were in the Israeli army, as you mentioned. Did you see any action there? And I don't mean with Israeli women in the army. I mean,
That was my confrontation with the war was in the Lebanon War in 1982, where I was sent with 2 friends of mine, one a guitarist and one a poet, Jonathan Gessen, and we were sent in to take troops into Lebanon, and I spent 90 days there in the front lines under fire. It wasn't fun at all. It was pretty disturbing and traumatic experience, which I still, when I look back on it, I'm horrified. But that's part of the reality that I went through, and I don't, it's part of being Israeli, I guess.
And speaking of which, speaking of scary and sad things, one of your friends, someone that you worked with quite a bit, and I was a friend of yours, was a poet named Liam Rector, right?
Oh, yeah.
That you did work with. And so you're friends, you've known him for years, you collaborate, you do this, and then, I don't know if it was out of the blue, but he kills himself. How do you reconcile? Do you go through that stage of like, oh, if only I called him the day before, I had no idea, or what do you do?
Well, no, we don't have any clue, including his wonderful wife, Henson, Swanson. I mean, she was surprised herself. We knew he was sick. We knew he was getting weaker, and he was young. It's shocking. It's shocking to the degree where it's very difficult to come to terms with it because it's so sudden. It's not a sickness. And it
Yeah.
continue to cherish and bring his memory as vivid as possible through his words.
Wow. Also, let's make a happier question here. You were married for many years. You're divorced, and you're are you dating anyone seriously, specially? Are you out there?
Oh my God! So you read my biography until like 15 years ago, right?
Well, it's not something you were dating a designer after that. Up until about 2011 was the last interview I read. Are you married again?
I got married on September 16th, 2011. That's when you stopped reading my biography.
There you go.
I married a beautiful woman, an Israeli fashion designer. Her name is Nini Lotan, and her based here in New York. And so that keeps me here in New York on edge and constantly producing from here.
And you have 3 children. Wait, I thought you were in. So you moved away from Tel Aviv because you were in Jersey, then Tel Aviv, and now you're in. Oh.
Well, no, I moved from New Jersey. I moved to Spain.
Oh,
Where I did several years, and I recorded 3 albums there. Then I moved to Israel. And the divorce, and a few years later, then the remarriage to Nini, which and we live happily ever after. I go to Tel Aviv every month for 10 days.
Oh, nice.
She comes with me, or we find ways to be with each other as much as possible. And so, yeah, I'm very happily married.
Mazel, and you have 3 grown children. Are any of them in music, or what are they up to?
Well, my kids used to sing with me live on the road, and but in the years, as the years went by, each found their own direction. One is a chef, one is a producer, and one is becoming a lawyer. So, and all
Jewish lawyer. Yes, I'm sorry, but gotta give a mazel for that.
Of course, you can't stray from the tradition.
Well, we're talking traditionally and non-traditionally with the singer-songwriter and the man who plays guitar like a machine gun, David Broza. Remember to go to davidbroza.net to find out where he's appearing, which includes on September 6th, Friday night, not this Friday, but next Friday night, he will be at the Rubin Museum of Art in Manhattan. Plus, if you happen to be in Westchester, you can catch him on the 28th of September playing at the Emmeline Theater in Mamaroneck, New York. Last question for you, David, if I may call you David?
That is who you want.
Oh, well, this is a comical tragedy, I assume. You mentioned somewhere that your bar mitzvah was a disaster. Why?
Well, because I guess I didn't feel I was prepared, which I suppose is a common thing.
Yeah.
And I forgot to bring Laftarah with me to the synagogue on purpose.
Oh, well, yeah, but I assume they had a spare Haftorah for you at the synagogue.
No, actually, they made me run home and get it.
Oh, for God! Wow!
So I did. Tel Aviv was a small town.
No, I'm sorry, but the rabbi's saying, it's like, go get it, bring it now. What? It's in the Bible. How hard is it to find the Haftorah in a synagogue?
The sweet thing is that he was the rabbi.
Yeah.
Sorry, the rabbi who officiated my father's bar mitzvah.
Oh.
My bar mitzvah and then my wedding. So it was something that had a very, I guess, an important presence in our lives. Though at the age of 30, I couldn't care less.
Fair enough. Oh, I'm so glad I asked that question. Ladies and gentlemen, David Broza has been with us in the neighborhood. It just remains for me to wish you continued success in your music, in your life. And hey, we have some differences of opinions in terms of the Middle East and possibilities and solutions there. But for God's sakes, we both hope for peace. And as I like to put it, shalom to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Rabbi. And we'll talk again, hopefully.
God willing. Shalom.
Thank you. Shalom.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, David Broza in the neighborhood, a man who sings and plays and sounds like this.